have been in a series called Loaded Questions. It's been amazing. Even for you guys who have been watching online and live streaming, let's give it up for our live streamers. Amazing series. We've tackled some topics that oftentimes we have questions on, we need answers to. Today we're going to be tackling a very difficult topic in many regards to tackle, but we're not shying away from that because we're the church and we're here to answer those questions, even if at first they may be difficult. So today we're actually going to be tackling the topic of abortion. The title of the message is Pro What? Pro-life, pro-choice. What is the right choice? What is the biblical perspective? Now, I want you to understand there are two goals that I have in mind as we go through this topic today. The first goal is that you understand no matter what's happened in your life, no matter what's transpired, what decision you may have made, no matter what choice you may have made in the past, God is a God of love. He is a God of forgiveness. He's a God of redemption, a God of mercy. There is no condemnation in this house. So I want you to understand that. You will not hear anything from this platform other than God's love and God's mercy. The second thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that goal is to educate you, to equip you. The vision of Freedom House Church is equipping people to experience Christ's freedom in their everyday lives. That's why this place is called Freedom House. It's called that for a reason. I want to make sure I educate you because statistics that are coming at us, and I'm not talking about Christian statistics. I'm talking about statistics that are from the CDC and the AGI, which are the two primary secular resources for statistics on abortion. They're reporting this: 70% of women who go into an abortion clinic have a church affiliation. 70%. The church needs to talk about it. Last year, 1 in 6 women who had abortions say that they didn't just go to church, but they were a born-again, Bible-believing Christian. How many of you know the church needs to talk about this subject? Last year alone, that represented 250,000 babies. You may think, well, how is this relevant to me? I'm not in this situation. 1 in 3 women by the age of 45 will have had an abortion. That affects all of us in some way, some shape, some fashion. So we're going to handle that topic today. And I have 3 different groups of people that are going to be coming up here on the platform and sharing their story. And I just want you to know one important thing as they come up to share their story. We're going to empty our pockets of any rocks. If you have rocks in your pocket, go ahead and empty them out, because that's not what we're about. The Bible says, those that have ears to hear, let them hear. So today we're going to hear 3 amazing stories. Are you ready? The first story we're going to hear from is Kristen Ingram. Kristen, come on out. Kristen, thank you so much for coming today. I don't want to minimize the bravery or the courage that it takes for you to come out here on this platform. So first, I just have to say thank you for being so brave and being willing to share your story. Kristen, this topic is very near and dear to your heart because something transpired when you were 16. Can you just talk to us about that for a minute?
Yeah. When I was 16, I was in high school and I got pregnant. And at the time, I was absolutely terrified. I didn't really know what to do. I was scared that I was going to disappoint everyone. I was scared for shame and condemnation, and I did make the choice to have an abortion.
Now, right after you had the abortion, you said there was a particular feeling that you had, and that changed over time, but what was the initial feeling right afterwards?
I was so relieved. I had the abortion, I was completely relieved, but, what I realized later that I had done was I had taken this pain because, when you do something, whatever you do externally, there's an impact on your soul and
internally,
yeah. And it was broken at that point. And I took that pain and I shoved it down way, way, way deep because it was just unbearable to face, and I didn't have anyone to face it with.
So the initial feeling was relief, and then it changed into the shame and the guilt Tell me what went along with that shame and guilt.
Yeah, so I had buried this really deep down, and anytime you push something down, it's gonna come up. And about 10 years later is when I started having, going down this path of self-destructive behavior. And it was the time when I was actually getting closer to God, and I guess it was him saying, you need to deal with this. And so I was basically slowly killing myself. And what my behavior said was, you aren't worth anything. You don't deserve anything. You have to punish yourself for what you did. And there's no way you could make this up. So.
Wow. Now, you told me something that when you made this choice to have an abortion, at the time that you made this choice, you didn't feel like there was any choice. You felt like that was the only way. Can you talk to me about that for just a minute?
Yeah, I mean, people say pro-choice, and I guess it is something that you choose, but it doesn't feel like a choice. It feels like either I have to go through this path where everyone in my life is going to hate me and
condemn
me and shame me, or I can go this path, which honestly, there is no easy path. People think that, having an abortion is taking the easy way out. It is not. There's so much pain down that road. But, I did come to a place where I did find healing. So
now, how did you come to that place? What was the marker? What was the catalyst that said, I want to heal from this?
Yeah, so, I started actually having I started having the self-destructive behavior, and I got into counseling for that, but, things weren't really changing. And I started having dreams, really nightmares about the abortion, just about things surrounding that. And people started coming into my life, and it was always just like I was looking myself in the face over and over again. And I was feeling the pain. It just kept creeping back up. And one day I was reading this book. And in the book, this lady, she had a major breakdown, and she ended up trying to commit suicide. And it came out that she was suffering from the pain from abortion. And one of her friends in the book had told her, she was like, that there's places that can help you heal from this. And she told her about an organization called Rachel's Vineyard. And of course, I'm just reading a novel, but something in me was just like, why don't you look it up? And
is this real?
Yeah, I looked it up, and it was real. And, it was actually the next weekend they were having a retreat, and I went to that retreat, and it was one of the hardest decisions I ever had to make, because I had to face myself. I had to say, I made a mistake. It sucks, yes. But, there was a road to healing where I was taught about really what it means to forgive myself and receive forgiveness from God and forgive everybody in the situation who had to do with the abortion. And everyone there, they get to grieve the death of their babies. And everybody out there who's post-abortive, men and women, don't let anyone tell you that you're not a mother or father who gets to grieve the death of your baby, because you do. And at the end of that road, there was redemption and peace and hope and forgiveness.
Wow. Now, talk to us about, you told me that one of the hardest things about getting up here this weekend, and this is, by the way, the third service she's done. We've got one more after this. But one of the hardest things about getting up here this weekend is talking to the church crowd. Why is talking to the church crowd the hardest?
Because this is the community in which I feel the most condemned by. And
do you guys hear that? Do y'all hear that?
I know, it's my third service, and I'm still shaking. Because, everything that you see people posting on Facebook, and I get people are passionate, but unintentionally, you end up condemning people. When I was in a place where I had not walked down the path of healing, and people made did these posts, it would literally make me not want to go to church. I felt like you were pointing fingers at me. I had done this. I was sorry. I just didn't know. I didn't have a place. I didn't know how to get forgiveness from it. And so it's unintentional, but I don't think it's helpful. I just don't.
Yeah. I think that's something key that we need to understand as believers. You know, I've never seen new Christians exhibit that behavior where they're online and they're posting this and this and this. It's usually after we've been saved for a bit. We kind of think spiritually we got a little something, and somehow, some way, we decide it's our right or our privilege to kind of tell everyone else how to live their life. And what I can gather from the Bible and reading the Bible is that Jesus said they'll know us by our love for one another. So there are oftentimes things that'll go through my head, but doesn't mean I need to post them on Facebook. There are oftentimes decisions that are biblical decisions, but the way in which my husband and I talked before, it's one thing if you get a filet mignon and a baked potato and a tossed salad and a loaf of bread and an iced tea, and it's served on a proper platter, but if you serve it on the lid of a trash can, I'm going to say no thank you. And I think oftentimes it's not necessarily what we say, it's how we serve that up. And I think as Christians, we need to learn to get our serve right. If we want to serve, let's pull the towel off of our waist and get down on our knees and serve somebody that way. I think that's much more beneficial, and I think that's what helps people. Now, Kristen, you work with women all the time, and you go on retreats. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I work with the organization Rachel's Vineyard, who walks people through the healing process of healing from abortion. They provide a place where you are safe and that you can have a time to understand what happened on the cross, because you don't have to punish yourself for the rest of your life for something you did when you were 16. And you don't have to try to make it up. You don't have to try to be perfect. You're already forgiven, and it's done, and now you just have to work through the healing. And so that's what they help you do, and they also give you a place to really just grieve the loss that you had, because it was a loss, and just work through that.
And we also have information we're going to put on the screens as well for people who are facing that decision. You're maybe unmarried. 85% of the women that have abortions are unmarried. Each year, 50%, and this is across the board, 50% of pregnancies are unplanned. And out of that 50%, 1 in 4 will end in abortion. So these are things we need to talk about, we need to be aware of. If you're facing that decision, we've got some websites and things for you to go to. I also want you to know you can go to help@freedomhouse.cc and confidentially get some help as well. At the end of the service today, all the people that will be on the platform will be at the bottom here to pray with you, to be there with you in whatever situation. So just make sure that you know that we're here for you no matter what. That's the Church of Jesus. So can we give Kristen a big hand? Thank you so much, Kristen. Is she brave or what? Wow. Now I want to tell you, when I was growing up, I was born in 1971. The culture and the time was a bit different. Our society now has gone way more anti-God. That's the way the culture has gone. The children and the kids that are growing up today, abortion has always been part of the culture. And it's not something they even understand or think is wrong. So a couple of things that I want to say today. I told you I wanted to educate and equip. I want you to turn your attention to the screens, and I want to tell you what you're going to be looking at. In this picture, you're going to see a baby that is 3 weeks after conception. In other words, this is before the mother even usually finds out that she's pregnant. So all of this has already transpired. If we use the term fetus, oftentimes it detaches us from the fact that it's a child, that it's a baby. So I want to tell you what's going on in this picture. In this picture, the bladder, the lungs, and the intestines are developing. The heart and the circulatory system are forming. The bones, the muscles, the kidneys, and the reproductive system are forming. The outermost layer of the skin, the central and peripheral nervous systems are forming. The eyes, the inner ear, and the connective tissues are also forming. I want to read to you a few scriptures and give you a biblical perspective on what God thinks about these babies. By the way, the word fetus is never used in the Bible when describing an unborn child. It's always baby or child or infant. Isaiah 49 verse 5 says this, I formed you in the womb to be God's servant. Jeremiah 1:5 says this, says, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you and called you a prophet. That was God speaking to Jeremiah. Psalms 119:73 says, your hands made me and fashioned me. I want you to understand when you're looking at this picture that all of these things are transpiring, that all of these things are going on before most women even realize they're pregnant. The next person we're going to be talking to is actually a couple. It's Shane and Hunter Hawkins. Can you welcome them to the platform? They have an incredible story. It's also, hey guys, it's also a story of bravery, and I just want to say thank you guys for being here. We're going to have the voice of a man today because this isn't just a woman's issue. Do you realize that? So we're going to be hearing from both of them. Shane, I met you a few years back. We were actually in the other building, and you are on the beauty pageant scene, and a bunch of your friends go here, and y'all do all the scenes together. And I know you came up to me after one of the services in our other building and said that you had rededicated your life to the Lord. And I remember that, and I'll never forget that. It was so exciting and so amazing. Something happened a few weeks after that. Can you tell me what transpired?
Yes. Well, like Pastor Penny said, I was Miss Concord. I was on my way to becoming Miss North Carolina. And I was starting school at the Carolina School of Broadcasting. Hunter was in Myrtle Beach at the Golf Academy of America.
So I think we have a picture of you as Miss Concord. There you go.
Yes. And Hunter was on his way to become a PGA golfer. And we started dating. And I went to the beach in early November. And on December 11th, Hunter and I found out that we were pregnant. On December 19th, we got engaged. On August 19th, we had our beautiful little angel, Lily. And on December 22nd, Hunter and I committed to one another and got married.
Wow. So they got married. So let's talk about this for a minute, because I remember getting a text message from one of your friends here in the church, and it said, Pastor Penny, Shane just found out she's pregnant. She's leaning towards abortion. Can you meet with her? Can you talk to her? Tell me about what was going on in your life and the voices that you had in your head, because I remember us getting together at Starbucks. And can you tell everyone a little bit about that and what transpired? What was going on in your heart, that wrestling, and your family members?
Well, obviously, I was scared to death. And I was battling with my mother. I was battling with my sister. I was battling with a few of my mom's friends. And their opinion was to get an abortion. But I did have an awesome support system, which included you and Hunter's family and a few of my girlfriends. So I had that support that I needed. But the biggest battle for me throughout my pregnancy was my mom, because she's the one person that should be there for me and that should really listen to me and not be judgmental towards me, but she was. And so that was the hardest part for me.
As a matter of fact, she even made a doctor's appointment for you. Can you tell me about that?
Yes. She Googled and researched the doctor in Charlotte that would perform an abortion while being put to sleep.
Because she wanted to make it as easy as possible for you to have this procedure.
Right. And she's the one who scheduled the doctor's appointment. And I was so against it, but at the same time, I was listening to my mom because she's my mother, you know. And so the doctor explained to me all of the abortion options, and then after she was finished explaining, I told the doctor that I didn't want to get an abortion, and that I wanted to keep my baby. And right off the bat, Dr. Hauschka was her name. She was 100% supportive and backed me all the way, and we still talk to her to this day, and she loves Lily, and we love her.
Wow. So when all of this is transpiring, obviously he's in Golf Academy in Myrtle Beach. You're on the circuit doing beauty pageants and things. When you had to reveal the fact that you were pregnant, tell me what happened then. Were you able to stay Miss Concord?
No, I had to give up my title, which was something that was really hard for me because I felt like I was almost a disappointment. And I had a lot of friends who backed me, but then there were also people who were judgmental and weren't so nice. But we made it through it. And that's something that I think is very rare for this type of situation, because a lot of girls who get pregnant don't have the support of the father of the baby. And that's something that I really want to help other girls know, that this is like almost a fairy tale. This doesn't happen all the time. It's very important to stay pure. And for the moms, it's really important to, if your daughter is pregnant, to be supportive of your daughter and not judgmental, and really listen and be there for her. Because this is such an emotional roller coaster, and it's something that can either be positive or a negative. And in our case, it was a positive, thank goodness.
Yeah, God is able to turn around things that initially, because you touched on purity. I'm going to jump over to you for a second, Hunter, because you were in Golf Academy in Myrtle Beach. You're a phenomenal golfer. You were going to go on the PGA. She was going down the Miss America pageant. You were going down the PGA route. Can you tell us, Hunter? Can you make us all jealous a little bit and tell us what your handicap is?
I'm a +2 handicap.
+2. That means 2 below par. For any of you who don't know what that means, it means he kicks butt in golf. So tell us a little bit what happened to lead up to this moment. You guys have been dating for 2 weeks, and I just want to say, Hunter is very brave, because he said, I want to reveal something from the platform this weekend that I don't talk about. But you guys were dating for 2 weeks when this transpired. Tell us what happened.
Right. We'd been dating for 2 weeks, and I was at the beach at school when she was in Mount Holly. And, she came down with a friend, and I had buddies over there. And we stayed over there, and, things came, and we ended up, having sex. And for those of you who are pure and who do have purity, it is a gift given by God. And for the people out there that think, just one time, what if I just do it one time, I'll be fine, nothing's going to happen. Well, I did have sex one time. The first time that I had sex, I also became a father.
So you can have sex for the first time and get pregnant?
Yes, absolutely.
Does everybody understand that? Just want you to know. Okay, keep going, Hunter.
Yeah. So, and it was, we were scared. I mean, we were excited because it is a miracle, and we made a mistake, but God makes no mistakes, and this little baby is in our life now. And the whole time I was thinking that there's so many people out there who can't have children and who would love to have children, and we were blessed to be able to become pregnant, and we were going to do everything that we possibly could to be able to have this baby and support this baby.
Now, when Shane was going through the turmoil, and at one time she had said to you, I'm going to have an abortion, you fought to keep this baby. So your voice was very loud in her life, and I thank you for that, because not everybody has that. Not everybody has someone fighting for them. There's a picture of Lily. Isn't she gorgeous?
She's getting ready to have,
she's getting ready to have her first birthday party. So obviously this is not long ago, since she's getting ready to turn 1, but that's a picture of their beautiful baby up there on the platform. Now, I want to go down the path for just a second. You had a lot of people that were speaking things into your head that caused you to wrestle in your heart. Things were a little bit different with you, Hunter. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Yes, I've grown up in a Baptist church. I'm real close with my family and friends, and once I found out that we were pregnant, me and my dad have a very close relationship, and I was scared to death to tell him that, because I didn't want him to be disappointed in me, even though there was parts of me that felt
because he just paid for 3 years of Golf Academy,
right, and
in Myrtle Beach,
planned on me
put
paying
you
him
up
back
in an apartment, and so there's a part of you that doesn't want to,
for him to feel like I'm not doing anything and that I'm going to have to stop with this, and there was a part of me that was scared to death to tell him, and then there was also a part of me that my dad's been so supportive that it'd be fine. And I did eventually tell him. It took me a little while to get the courage, but I did eventually tell him. And the first thing he said was, "You're going to keep it, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And that's exactly what I needed to hear, because that's where I was leaning anyway. And to have his support, and my parents' support, and also for them to support Shane was a blessing.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys for sharing your stories. The thing that's amazing to me, there's actually 3 top reasons why women choose the abortion route, and the first is because their lifestyle will be altered. Your lifestyles were greatly altered. and that it's work, home, school, those things change. The second reason is a financial reason, which also was impactful for you guys because both of you were on the pageant scene, you're in Golf Academy. And then the third is they don't want to be a single parent, which is why I think it's so important what you talked about, Shane, about purity, because if that is the stance of our heart, we will not find ourselves in that situation. So thank you guys so much for being brave and honest and sharing personal, detailed facts about your life with us. Can you guys give them a hand? Thank you guys so much. Thank you. I told you guys some pretty brave, amazing people are up here on the platform with me this weekend. I want you to take a look at this picture that's up on the screens. This is a baby 5 weeks after conception. 5 weeks after conception, the baby's brain and face are rapidly developing. Tiny nostrils become visible. Eye lenses are formed. Arms and legs take shape. The body is still very tiny, the size just a little bigger than a pencil eraser. You know, the Bible declares that we are made in God's image, and I just want you to know that that's a little image bearer right there. It's very tiny, but it's God's image that we're looking at. I want to read a scripture to you, and it's one of my favorite in the Bible, and I want you to hear this scripture. It's Psalms 139:13 through 16. It says, "You made all my delicate inner parts of my body, and you knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion and as I was being woven together in the dark of the womb. You saw me before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed." What a beautiful picture of what God thinks about unborn babies. How amazing is that? I have one more story that we're going to share today, and this story is very different than the other two. They're all three very different perspectives. And I'm thankful that this person is going to share their story because in order to do that, unfortunately, some of her family members get painted in a light that is not necessarily the best light, but the intention of the story is to bring life and healing, not to bring condemnation. But her story is what it is. So could you welcome Rachel Tanis for me? Thank you, Rachel, so much for being so brave to share your story. I know that this is the first time you as well have shared your story publicly, so thank you for that. This story or this topic touches you differently than the other two. This actually has to do with your family as a whole. So can you take me back to when your mom was 16 years old?
Sure. Well, my mom got pregnant when she was 16, and her first reaction was that she was scared. And her father was abusive, and she feared the reaction that she would get when she told her parents that she was pregnant. So she decided to have an abortion, and my dad gave her some money, and a friend took her to the clinic, and she had the procedure done. She said afterwards she was just emotionally broken. She said she couldn't get out of bed and was just devastated by what had happened. Well, a couple months later, she realizes that she's still pregnant. Not newly pregnant, but still pregnant. So at this point, she thinks that she's safe. She thinks she's far enough along where she can't have an abortion. So she gets up the courage to tell her parents that she's pregnant. And her parents decide that they're going to take her to another state to have a late-term abortion.
Because it wasn't legal in the state you were in.
Right.
So their fix was you're still going to have this abortion, but we're going to drive you somewhere else where you can have this procedure done. So what happened?
Well, the three of them went to the clinic, and they were going to force her to do it. And part of the deal at the clinic was that each woman had to meet with a counselor before having the procedure done. So she meets with the counselor, and she gets really upset, and she tells the counselor that she wants to keep her baby, she doesn't want to have an abortion, and that if her parents try to force her to have an abortion, then she's going to run away and they'll never see her again.
So something happened on June 27th, 1980. Can you tell me what that date is?
June 27th, 1980 is my birthday. So I'm that baby that survived the abortion.
Pretty amazing. Now, I will tell you that Rachel is 33. Back 33 years ago, she was 8 weeks early because of the trauma and things that had been experienced by the actual abortion procedure. She was born with a partial placenta, and she did not make it to full term, but she survived, and she made it, and she's sitting here with us today. So thankful. So incredibly thankful. Now, Rachel, this topic has touched you in that way, but there's also been loss that you've experienced, a little bit different perspective. Can you talk to me about that?
Yes, when my husband and I had a lot of difficulty trying to have a baby, and we actually had 3 miscarriages before we got pregnant with our daughter. So
Gwendolyn, I think we have a picture of Gwendolyn and of your family as well they can put up. So that's Gwendolyn.
So she's a little miracle. There she is. She's a little miracle herself, too. But what's been so powerful about hearing Kristen's story and other stories is that I didn't realize that there was so much pain and so much grieving that someone who had had an abortion would have to go through as well. So that makes me really be able to connect to her, knowing how painful it was for me to go through those losses. I really empathize with her and feel that pain that she's going through too.
Now, I want to hear from you also. Your mother, after she got pregnant, she was forced to do something additional. Can you tell us what she was forced to do?
Yes, her parents went to church maybe a couple times a year, but my dad's family were very involved in their church, and my parents got involved in my dad's church. And actually, as a congregation, they were made to get up in front of everyone while she was pregnant and confess their sin.
And she was 16 years old.
Yes, they were both 16 at the time, so they really were shamed in front of the whole church.
Now, your mother, is she serving God? Is she in church today?
No, she's not. As a matter of fact, she points to that experience and some other experiences that she had as a single mom as to the reason why she's not in church today.
Do you see why it's so important for us to make sure as a church we're there for people? It affects their whole life, their whole entire life. And we want for people who find themselves in this situation to make sure that we're loving and we're caring and we help point them in the right direction, not pushing them in a place where they feel like they have absolutely no choice. So her mother was put on the platform and shamed, and to this day will not go to church because of it. Well, thank you for sharing that story and letting us know. I'm so glad that you're here. And I think it's important to, you're speaking, each person had a different voice, and you're speaking from the voice of a child who almost wasn't. And you want to be here. You wanted to live your life. So I'm so thankful that you are here. Can we give Rachel a big hand?
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Amazing. You know, I want to tell you, when I was about 12 years old, this topic affects me as well. When I was about 12 years old, I was not raised by my biological father, but I would go and visit him on holidays. And one such holiday, I was visiting my dad, and he was laying on the bed, and he was inebriated. And I remember I was standing at his closet, and I was flipping through all of his T-shirts, because he had a bunch of graphic T-shirts. And so I was in there reading all the graphic tees, and I just remember him laying in the bed, and out of his drunken state, he goes, "You know what, PJ?" That was my nickname. He said, "PJ, I'm really glad we didn't abort you." He goes, "As hard as I pushed your mother, I'm really glad that we didn't." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And he's like, "Well, your mom had already had one baby, and you know, my brother was born in 1970, and back in this time especially, you were just considerably shunned and embarrassed and humiliated. And so in 1970, she got pregnant with my brother, had him, And then 3 months after she gave birth to my brother, she got pregnant with me. And to avoid the humiliation of a different father, of people finding out here she had made this mistake again, she considered having an abortion, especially when my father was pushing her so hard. And I remember saying, "Why'd you push so hard?" And he goes, "I didn't need another child to pay child support for. I already had several. So I don't want to pay child support anymore." I remember being 12 years old and hearing that. And years later, I had to come face to face with this topic again. I was pregnant with my middle child, and there was a lot of things they found wrong, and they didn't give me any hope for her. And I remember sitting in the office. I remember them saying, "We need to talk to you about your options. It doesn't look good. It's your brain." And I saw what they were talking about. I could see it on the screen. But I looked at them and I said, "Not going to happen." I believed for this little baby. And as hard as it took me to believe for her, I can believe for God to heal her. But regardless, she's my baby. And she was born completely and totally healthy. There was a miracle that happened, and that's a whole nother story. But this topic, I think, affects a lot of us. We have to realize that it's way more prevalent and it's way more reaching than we may understand at times. I'd like to ask everyone if you could do this, if you could just bow your head right where you're at and just close your eyes. Oftentimes in life, we just need a do-over. We just need a clean start. And it doesn't matter if this topic is the one that's resonated with your heart or if there's another area in your life that you've been really wrestling with. All of us at times need a do-over. Whether you're watching online and you're live streaming right now, or whether you're sitting here in this packed out auditorium, one thing I know, God's grace and mercy is here for you. Within the sound of my voice, if you're that person that says, "You know what, I've made a lot of mistakes," or I need a do-over today. I need a fresh start today. If that's you, would you just lift your hand up? Nobody's going to call you out. Nobody's going to point you out. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you all the way in the back. Thank you here in the middle. Thank you over here on the side. All the way back there, thank you. Just raise your hand if you say, "God, thank you. Thank you guys over here." My live streamers too, man, you can make this same commitment. Just, man, God, I need a do-over. I need your presence. Be fresh in me, God. I feel like there's some more people. Thank you so much for lifting your hands. Thank you all the way in the back. Thank you in the middle again. Gosh, this is so encouraging and amazing. Thank you, guys. God, I just need a fresh start. Rekindle my passion for you, God. Rekindle my love for people, God. Anybody else want to join in? Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Anybody else before I pray? Thank you over here on the right. God, I want to do over. God, make me white as snow. Your word declares I can be whiter than snow. Thank you. Thank you so much. In the middle, I love when I see men raise their hands just to commit. Thank you. Anybody else in here? Thank you all the way in the back. You guys are so incredibly brave. Thank you so much. I see you all the way back there. Thank you. I see you too. Anybody else? Thank you. Ladies over here. Gentlemen all the way in the back. Thank you. Thank you. I see your hand too. So many of you say, "Man, I need a do-over." Oh, gosh. Oh, thank you. God, your presence is so here in this room. It's tangible. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, sir. Every age, thank you guys over here. Every age, every gender, every race, I see hands being raised. I love it. Thank you so much, God. Thank you, ladies. Just going to take a minute and just pray over you. Father, Father, I thank you for every wonderful person that's watching us right now, that's listening to this, Father, whether it's by CD or they're sitting here in this auditorium. Father, your grace is more than enough. Father, your love is so big and so broad and so huge. It doesn't matter what we've been through. God, you're bigger. You're not here to condemn us, but you're here to forgive us and to love us. And we just accept that love and forgiveness right now into our hearts. Father, we ask you to, just like a big giant chalkboard, Lord, you're the big eraser that comes in and just makes the board clean again. Father, make us clean. Fresh start, new day. We thank you for that, and we feel your presence in this room right now. God, we love your presence. There's nowhere we'd rather be than in your presence, oh God. And Lord, I just thank you. Special thanks to these brave people who were up here today. I know it takes a lot, but Lord, they wanted to represent you today, and they did it so well. Thank you for them. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, I want you to know that they will be up here in the front, as well as some other people from our leadership team. If you need prayer, if you want to share your story with them, if you want to connect with them, or if you just want to tell them thank you, they will be up here in the front with other leaders. We're here to pray with you, believe with you for whatever you need. Also, we do have resources and information available at our Welcome Center outside, not only for if this is a decision you made for the first time, in accepting God. We have those resources, but we also have resources if you're facing a tough decision and you need help and you need to know what to do. We have information out there available for you. So will you guys stand with me, and let's just give this team one more hand for what they did today and how they shared. Thank you. Thank you for being so receptive and for hearing every word today. And I actually felt the love and compassion in this room today. That's why I love you, Freedom House. You're amazing. You're so amazing. Well, you are dismissed. You have an amazing week. We love you so much.